beginning this year to protect young athletes from concussions.
It could be another indication of swiftly changing culture in the sports world. Our Julie Bueller live in the newsroom with the latest on this story. Julie.
Hi, Gino. Hi, Janet. That's right. It's cost the NFL more than $1 billion and some former football players their lives. But the culture is changing, and now so are state laws. In fact, this year, the state law is mandating a change to how athletes are treated after being diagnosed with a concussion.
And the more knowledge you get, the more you realize, wow, we've really got to watch this carefully.
For decades, no one even knew what a concussion was.
And we're all learning what that looks like. We're all learning what the differences are. You know, I've been doing this a long time, and I've learned a ton in the last 3 or 4 years about concussion and concussion protocol and what's best for kids and what causes concussions and all those kind of things.
And for so long, when an athlete, quote, got their bell rung, a popular term for dizziness caused by a hit to the head, they were just expected to shake it off and keep playing.
We're trying to change the culture and telling the kids, you got to see what the big picture is. Everybody wants to be out there Friday night under the lights, TV cameras, all that stuff, but that's not as important as your health later on in life.
Only in the past decade or so has medical science begun peeling back the layers of complexity and understanding the effects, short-term and long-term, of concussions. And how young athletes are protected has now been dictated by state law.
The symptoms on the short term are not nearly as obvious as the symptoms in the long term. If you don't do it right, you won't know for years and years whether or not you've done it right or not.
Before this year, there was no set timetable for an athlete to return to the field after suffering a concussion. But now, once an athlete is diagnosed, they cannot compete for a minimum of 7 days. And state law dictates that diagnosis must come from a specialist.
An MD or DO trained in concussion management, so that number gets very small very quickly.
The qualifications of the person making that diagnosis is key, according to Curtis.
So it's subtle changes and subtle symptoms anyway, and you're dealing with athletes that don't want to tell the truth and they just want to play.
And if the diagnosis is missed or an athlete is playing before they've healed,
usually they're more likely to have a secondary concussion, and that usually comes on with less impact, and it may last longer for them to recover from the initial injuries.
According to Calderwood, this new state law isn't just for coaches and trainers to know.
Everybody has to buy in and everybody has to own the process, from kids to parents to coaches.
Administrators and CIF officials alike reiterated to me multiple times education is so important, both for players and for parents. And while football obviously gets a lot of the publicity for head trauma and those types of issues, hockey and soccer and all sports have the same rules. In fact, if you go to KMIR.com, we have the link up right now for an informational video from CIF so parents can better educate themselves on the new concussion protocol. Live at Rancho Mirage High School, I'm Julie Bueller, KMIR News.
All right, thank you, Julie. Clearly not in the newsroom.
Clearly
Very
not.
much out there in the world. Coming up next, we'll recap tonight's top stories.
And then at 6 tonight, a buddy movie with a twist. Manny, the movie guy, tells us if he thinks American Ultra is a hit or a miss.
We all have the potential